know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?
Peace, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another exciting edition of HAPI Talks. I'm your host tonight, Taki Grant, and we have an exciting show tonight. We have two brothers in the community who are contemporaries of mine, and we've had the good fortune and happy in working with them on several events, several projects, and I'm happy they're going to be here tonight to share what's on their mind. The title of the show tonight is The New Age of Consciousness. And it's important as we look at that and as we engage in this discussion on a combination of culture and money and how those two things intersect. But before we bring those brothers on, we just have some things we want to go over with the family and kind of just discuss. For those who are not signed up in the HAPI newsletter, please take this opportunity to do so you can be connected to all things HAPI in the world of consciousness and what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, all of the different events, film screenings, trips, you name it. Everything could be, your notifications can come through that way. So it's very important to visit hapifilm.com and sign up for the newsletter. Also, there is a clearance sale on all of the HAPI merchandise. You go to the HAPI store, also at hapifilm.com, and you can get your latest HAPI gear, your HAPI merchandise, and support the movement in that way. We also encourage people to do the super chats, the cash apps, stars if you're on Facebook, and things that way also to support the HAPI movement and with our ongoing process to the further development of our people. So, as we were saying a minute ago, we have Brother Jamaar Milton and Dr. David Anderson, who's going to be on the show tonight discussing the New Age of Consciousness. And like I said, we've had the pleasure of working with them in the past. And right now, if you can see it, have the Happy Day of Black Excellence shirt on. And Jamaar Milton, he came, rocked the house, did a fantastic, phenomenal performance at the show. Dr. David Anderson was with us and did a phenomenal presentation at the HAPI Film screening in Atlanta. So these are brothers that we've worked with on these great events that we've had. And speaking of great events, we have the epic travel event coming up in February. The trip that I'm looking forward to. I've been doing this for almost 3 decades, and definitely are at a point where I'm like, wow, this is something that I'm really, really excited about. We have the opportunity to connect the dots. And that's what's so essentially important about what it is that we're doing. We're just learning this information just to be learning it, or we're learning this information to actually figure out ways how to connect the dots. And this trip to Kemet, or this journey, pilgrimage to Kemet, upcoming in February, will do just that. Discover the origins of economics in Egypt with HAPI. So essential that we have this. And we're going to have, last week we talked to Infudisi Jehutimes and Dr. Georgina Falou about their participation, about economic workshops. Here, these two brothers will also be with us on this trip, on this journey, and this pilgrimage to the Nile. You got to be there. It's going to be fantastic. Like I said, I've been doing it over almost 3 decades. And this is one that I recommend everybody, if you have the ability to come and be a part of this, it's something you're not going to want to miss. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on these two brothers. We're going to get this discussion started.
Peace.
Thanks, brothers. How you doing?
What up? What up?
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. How we doing?
Doing well.
As always.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good to see you, Taki.
For sure. So, we just kind of going over a couple different things about, the upcoming trip, but I want to really get into the discussion or the title of this film. We talked of this, of the show, the new age of consciousness. And you two brothers, I could just hear you contemporaries, and I think we have a responsibility to kind of figure out what the future is going to look like, and how do we make the transition from now to then, and what are some of the things that are important to us. So when we think about what consciousness looks like in the future, I want to kind of go through both of you brothers and just kind of get your feedback on that, and we'll keep the discussion flowing as we get into that. So Jamaar, we're going to start off with you. In your opinion, like, what does the consciousness look like to you, or the new age of consciousness? What that should look like?
I think now the new age of consciousness is becoming a collective consciousness versus an individual effort. When we first started to delve into other life experiences, other life subscriptions, and ways of living our Black experience, for the most part, there's been a lot of pockets and like one-offs where you find an individual or a small group of people beginning to expand their consciousness. But now, because of the internet and because of our ability to converse with one another in lightning speed, collectively, we're growing and expanding at the same time versus having these pockets. So I believe in the future, what it's going to look like is less individualism, more unity, more group efforts, and more of a collective movement versus, just one person or one small clique. Right now we're all seeing the value in our dollar. We're seeing the value in each other in trade and commerce. We're starting to see the power that we have as a group, as a collective. And we're realizing that we're actually not as far off as we think to where we're trying to go, to end game, to destination, which is that collective consciousness, which is all of us being on one accord. We're starting to realize now that we need each other, and you can't do it alone. You're not going to be able to just run off and do your thing. You know what I mean? So I believe the future lies in the collective. If I had to wrap it up, it's going to be in the collective wherever it goes, because I can't tell you exactly where it's going to go. I just know that wherever it's going to go, it's going to be a united front. And it'll be no more people sitting back from the sidelines watching things go on. It's going to be a means for their survival, to be included and to participate and to cooperate. So that's what I see the future of it going. I also see the future delving into more economical reasons versus what we're used to. Before it was more political, and I think we're starting to see that there's power in our economics that can override politics. You see, a lot of times we hoping for that face, that Black face, to represent us well, and we get upset when that Black face turns coat. And they don't realize that the reason why the Black face turns coat is because of economics. It's the lobbyists, it's the people who fund the ideals and the different notions and ideas that drive them. So now that we know that economics is involved and we have a say in it and we have power in it, we're dominant in it, I think we're going to start driving our monies to different spaces that actually are conducive to us. So if I had to look at collective consciousness, it's going to be everybody essentially being informed, awakened, and moving at the same time, at the same speed, at the same rate, and not leaving nobody behind, realizing that until everybody's free, nobody's free, so that's where we at.
Peace. Thank you. Family, I just want to go over something real quick before I move on to Dr. Anderson. So we got these two brothers on the show together, essentially in the spirit of what we had last week, and also essentially in the spirit of what we're doing in February in Kemet, in regards to having a combination between our culture and our money. Dr. David Anderson is an economist, phenomenal guru on finance, and Brother Jamaar Milton is someone who is a practitioner of culture. And to have this combination is essential because this is exactly what we are doing. So, Dr. Anderson, before we get into that, family, please like, comment, and share. Please get the film. Please get it out. Please like the video, comment on it, share it as many people as we can. Yes, definitely. Want to help get us out and help get the algorithms moving in a positive way. So, Dr. Anderson, the purpose of my book is touching a couple different things. And one of the things we talked about, I just want to elaborate from the economic standpoint, economic overriding power. Like, how do we accomplish?
Yeah, your mic's kind of muffled on the return, but I got a gist of what you were saying. First of all, Taki, let me congratulate you for organizing this epic trip to Africa, to Egypt. 3 decades is a long time. I'm excited to. I'm thankful that you thought enough about my work and what we do to participate on, and I look forward to doing the trip. And everything that Brother Jamar said, I'm in agreement with. But as it relates to consciousness, which is the original question, where is it going, and how do we see that in the future? I think before we get into that, I think it's important that we understand the etymology on the word conscious. Um, One of the root words in that word is science. Conscious is science, so it's science, and a lot of the sciences we're gonna need. And I say that to say because like right now, these last couple of days, this last week is the hottest recorded week in the Earth's history. It's the hottest recorded week in Earth's history. Why is that important? Because now people are running their air all day. They're running it longer. Their bill is going to go up. There's speculation in the real estate world that shows that the the heat bill will be comparable to the mortgage bill. Okay, so with the Earth's temperatures going up due to global warming, we got to now start building our houses with that in mind. The ancestors, when we go to Egypt, we see scenarios in these tombs in which there are holes that were drilled into the ground to keep the area cool. Geothermal heating and cooling. That's going to be a regular practice, in the future, if not now. So when we talk about the consciousness or the conscience, we have to adopt, these ways in which we're going to keep ourselves warm and cool in extreme temperature because that's what's happening right now.
Hmm.
Second thing, when we're talking about this consciousness, is that when Brother Jamar is talking about community, the Jews have some really um, key things that are necessary in building community. And I think one of those things is that we got to have like education within our own community. We can't keep going, being educated by, you know, educators that don't have our best interests in mind, which is what happens here at HAPI. But we got to take that a little bit more seriously. We got to take it, to the next level and the next stage. So we got to have the money to educate our own kids. I think that it's important that not only we go to Egypt, but we bring our kids to Egypt. I was able to go, more than one time. I've been there 4 or 5 times, and I've been able to take my children. But when we get into education, it can't just be a book that somebody else wrote. The Rockefeller family built the educational or wrote the curriculum for the educational board. So the original curriculum for public school system was funded by people that don't look like us and that ensured that we only have 3rd grade education to ensure a laboring class. That was what the Rockefeller family set up. So we have to educate our own people. We have to be aware that when we're building to be able to manage these extreme temperatures. We need to have, access to our own water. There's a brother in Austin, Texas named Moses West. This brother's built an atmospheric water generator. This thing takes the humidity out of the air and creates clean water at a pH of 9.5. In my mind, that needs to be in everybody's house. That's standard equipment. So when we don't have to be begging on TV, asking white folks to help fix our water, we got clean, determined water that we know, we can put out our own fires and all this stuff. So what I'm getting to is more of a sustainability of consciousness. Consciousness is cool. Everybody talking about we woke, but to actually do these things, we need to be able to put out our own fires. And if we don't have, it takes 50,000 gallons of water to put out a house fire. If you don't got 100,000 on tap, are you woke? Are you really in a position to respond to the needs of your community? So we got to look at it like the science of, what are the essential things that we need in our community and how can we fix these problems without having to call the police and waiting 30, 40 minutes for them to respond to something and our house is burning down. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it from an educational standpoint, that we control our own education, we control our own water, we control our own power. Like, we have to control these things, because these things are now variables that, because of climate change, we're not going to be able to control. People are crying about the mortgage. What are they going to be doing? Crying about the heat bill? Con Edison cutting your heat off, and heat is on average 120 degrees outside. That's where it's going.
That was a bomb right there. You definitely and family, that is essentially what February is about. And I want to thank Dr. David Anderson for kind of wrapping that up and putting it in perspective in terms of connecting the dots, making it plain, making it people understand that as we deal with our history and our culture, we have to really be on some serious, fundamental, how do we do the next step types of situations or dialogue. And this is what this is about. You got to be on the HAPI 2024 tour to Egypt, discover the origins of economics Egypt with HAPI. Dr. David Anderson will be there. We one of the financial presenters in terms of dealing with the financial workshops that we're going to have. Brother Jamaar Milton is going to be there, live musical performances. Right now, please, family, iCareTours.com. Go register now. You know, Dr. Anderson, when you were just talking about what that looks like in terms of sustainability and energy, I know the brother Jamaar Milton also deals with energy in terms of, his day-to-day and understanding that what we need to move to on the solar side and some of the things that we need to be more aware of in terms of being able to not only kind of think about the future. So when we think about New Age consciousness, it's not just about information in terms of historical, cultural information, but it's also about scientific information. So I like the fact that you took the root word science and kind of applied that. So Jamaar, you just kind of give a minute, just kind of talk about the solar part and just get into that and what that looks like from your end.
Yeah, absolutely. I know as far as New York is concerned, as being one of the leading salesmen over in the solar program, what I've realized is that many people don't know the like you said, the science behind it, and actually what we're capable of doing scientifically to reduce what we pay in household utility bills and in our electric bills and things of that nature. And also for some people, depending upon your location, actually going off the grid completely. This is something that politicians actually fight against. They don't want you to be self-sustainable. So some of these things you actually have to do under the radar, and then some of them you just want to play the game. So when we're dealing with solar, right now, solar has the ability to give you a much cheaper electrical rate. We haven't had it long enough to actually see the end of some of these terms. Most of the contracts are 25 years if you want to get solar. So nobody has actually reached the end of their contract unless they just bought it outright. But what it does do is it helps to subsidize some of the costs that you would pay for delivery charges for your electricity, for those who don't know. Many people think solar energy is just you get solar panels and now you hop off the grid. That's not actually how it works. In order to do that, you have to have a solar battery, which gives you the ability to store your power from the sun. Anyone with solar panels, that energy comes in and it goes right back to the grid and it stays there. Then the grid gives it back to you at a cheaper rate. So first and foremost, giving the education piece to everybody and letting them know how it actually works is the first thing, because you can invest a lot of money into something that doesn't actually do what you want it to do. You know what I mean? So if you want to get off the grid, the only way to do it is right now legally through solar and having some sort of backup battery, or just not registering with your local utility company, which I really don't advise just yet until you're completely off the grid. So these are some of the things that you can take precaution for right now. You can actually be active and be proactive, and go ahead and look into that right now. If you need information, you can hit me up on my inbox, or reach out and they'll get the message to me if you're looking for that type of stuff for renewable energy. But it's all around you, not only solar energy, but we also have wind turbines that you can tie into, where you can utilize the wind. Anything that's a natural resource, the sun, the wind, or the water. Up in Connecticut, in certain areas, they use water churners to produce power. Energy is free, but we pay for it because of lack of information. The more knowledge we know about it, when we know how to produce energy, energy cannot be destroyed. It's only transformed. So it's just a matter of you hopping into that grid and learning how to transpose it to turn direct current into AC current. those are the sciences that you want to study moving forward when it's starting to deal with energy crisis and things of that nature. Learning Tesla's science lineup, how he could use the 3, 6, and the 9 and the principles, and how to create alternating current. These are things that Black folks need to know. We need to know how to change and transpose and alchemize energy. The book that I wrote, the ebook, it talks about alchemizing energy, like negative energy into positive energy. These are things that we do regularly, subconsciously, that we don't know that we do. We live in a negative environment, but we transform that energy into positivity on a regular basis, and we've even monetized it, right? White folks have monetized our pain and our plight and our struggle, right? It's the same thing. All energy works the same way. It's just a different kind of energy. You have to transpose that energy and make it useful, and it's a reciprocal thing. It goes in a cycle. So, studying those things will help to give you a roundabout understanding on renewable energy. Most of us can't tap into it only because we haven't got the foundation. But once you have that, then everything else is very, very easy. So
once you have that, everything is very, very easy. I like that. So,
yeah.
As far as
understanding the mechanics of it, once you understand the basics of it, what it doesn't do, you have to know what it is. Like when we get information in the Black community, we get a lot of conspiracy theories with it. We always get we get the truth, but then we get an extra basket filled with all the not truth, and they mix all that in by the time we get to it. You know what I mean? So once you clear all of that out of the way, then everything else you can figure out. Once you realize how to change the energy from one thing to another. Once you change it from DC to AC, you just get an inverter. That changes it. Now you can literally take that knowledge and go to any continent and do that, right? They'll try to block you here in the United States. Like you can only do but so much as far as solar, as far as even saving your own rainwater. But if you know how to do that, reverse osmosis, and you know how to do the different processes in the sciences, like he was saying, you could take that skill anywhere on the planet, and you'll be fine. You see, so it's that education piece, like he was saying, of understanding the sciences is very important, because I cannot give somebody solar panels if they don't understand how it works. You understand? They won't benefit. It will be there, but it won't give them what they can get from its fullest potential, because they have no idea how it works. It just sits on top of their roof. But when you give them that education piece, when you sit them down and you tell them the science, now they know how to utilize the app and turn it on and off at peak times and hours. They know when to use it and when not to use it. They understand exactly what it does, and it's not no fables to it. So we have to get rid of spookism, and that's why I'm big on getting away from religion and things of that nature, and dealing with more of science, because a lot of that is what I mean about the spookism and the extra stuff that comes with it, the conspiracy theories that come with it. So we mix a lot of that into the intel. You know what I mean? Into the actual science of it, and it's not included in science. Science is its own separate thing. It disproves religion all the time. You know what I mean? But if you're programmed a certain way, you will avoid the science. You will completely avoid the science and go with your faith about what you think, what you want to happen, or your hope, versus what actually happens. What actually happens is law, and it's calculated. You see, there's a format, there's a method, there's a system that we can follow to success. If you're just wishing and hoping, it's not going to get you but so far, because there's a way to do things. Just like on the internet, there's a way to target this. You have 1 million followers, but only 100 people are going to see it at best. Why? Because there's a way to utilize the internet. There's a system. Yeah, you got the followers, but where's the following? Why? Because you're not following the system. It's an algorithm attached to that. If you don't know how the algorithm works, doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter what talent you have. You have to know how to utilize that tool. You see, so that's where we are now, where we're in the age of information, where all the info is coming in, and we're learning about all these new tools, and we have to get all the wish-wash out of the way that we've been dealing with for so long. That has to go before we can start to delve into new knowledge. We have to get rid of old knowledge, like filling up a cup. You can't just keep filling up. You have to pour out the bad stuff, right? If you want a clean glass of something that's better, you can't even just pour out the bad stuff. You got to clean it out. Right? If I give you a cup of muddy water and you pour it out, and I pour clean water in, do I have a clean glass to drink out of? No, you still got a glass of muddy water. So you gotta fully clean out what it is we think we know, and start to delve into the ancient sciences, like he was saying, the conscientious stuff, the stuff that we know. We know that energy is it's immortal, right? You can't destroy it. right? Energy is always here. So how come we're paying for it, right? Make it make sense. Why are we paying for it? Talk to him, Doc. Doc trying to say something.
I'm just saying. So Jamar is on one right now because, you know, when we were in. So first of all, this is why the trip to Egypt is so imperative, because, you know, the first and you can't just go once. You kind of have to go and absorb it, and then go home and think about it, and then go back. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, you know, the first time you go, you be like, oh, I want to go to Giza and I want to see these pyramids, and you want to get on a camel and go see the pyramid. But having done that, you know, more than one time, maybe about 4 or 5 times, I'm really of the notion, and Taki, I know you're gonna have a lot to say about what I have to say, but this is my personal opinion as it relates to this conversation. I'm of the notion that the mirror, Khufu's mirror, is not a tomb. It wasn't no spot where they placed, you know, a sarcophagus in. I'm of the notion that was a power plant, because all of when you look at Nikola Tesla's design plan for the Widen Cleft Tower, in his notes, this is a downloaded white paper that's on the internet. You can download the white paper for the Widen Cleft Tower. This is the concept that Jamar is talking about, being able to pull energy out of the air. It was heavily based off of the principles in Giza, in which power was generated. When you go into that mirror, Khufu's mirror, there ain't no hieroglyphs up there. There ain't no, Dr. Finch ain't talking about what the ancestors talked about in Khufu's mirror, because it ain't nothing there.
Right.
You know why? Because explosions happen and chemical reactions were happening. That wasn't no spot for nobody to be on the wall etching nothing on the wall. There's no presence of etchings anywhere inside of that structure, megalithic structure. So I'm just saying, I can't prove it, but I'm just of the notion in my travels that, you know, that was an energetic situation going on. And at that time, you know, there's proof that these the limestone and the rose granite was floated in from some 400 miles away, right up into the mouth of the Sphinx. How did they do that? Because water was present. So if water was present, they figured out a way to pull that energy out the sky. I only say this to say, all these cats, these Hotep cats, be like, yo, peace, God, black power. But black power is really being able to generate the God in you, the power from inside of the God in you. And that's what black power is really about. So if we're going to really be about it and be throwing up our fists in the air and be like, yo, you know, I'm not down with the system, then we got to really be able to control that. And what Jamar is saying is, it's not enough to just have solar panels. I have a 64 kW system in my primary residence, meaning that I can store 64,000 kilowatt hours in my primary residence. And I'm not totally dependent on solar. Wind, we have a wind wall. This is a really interesting fact. For those who want to know about where the batteries are, my battery system is built by a company called Blue Planet. They're in Hawaii. You can go to blueplanetenergy.org and check them out. But I say all this to say that we're on days that the sun is cast, it takes about, because in Georgia we have about almost 18 hours of sunlight in the winter solstice, which is what Jamar was talking about, depending on where you are in the country. 12 of those hours are direct sunlight on the panels, but half of the month is overcast because of, you know, global warming and, you know, pollutants in the air and all this other stuff. So I'm not being able to fully charge. So I say that to say, when I can't get fully charged, we lean on wind energy through these wind walls to be able to compensate to keep the batteries fully charged. Now, I'm not off the grid. I ain't trying to have them, you know, be like, oh, this dude, I'm still connected to the grid. However, I'm not using it like that. My bill might be like $25 for the quarter. You know what I'm saying? So these types of things, if we really talking about, oh, black power this, black power that, the first thing we need to do is get a control of our energy. You know, I'll just keep it like this. There was a gentleman in my neighborhood. This dude's house burned to the ground. All right. And the neighborhood, it was pretty funny. It was funny, but it wasn't funny. But I'll explain it like this. There's a hydrant that's supposed to be within 100 feet of, you know, so many houses. Let's say, call it whatever, 10 houses. For every 10 houses, there's a hydrant, okay, for every 100 feet. When they called the fire department, now when you pay real estate taxes, your real estate taxes go to police, they go to education, and they go to emergency services, the fire department. Okay, this guy calls, my house on fire, come put it out. They show up. The first 100-foot hydrant didn't have enough pressure on it to be able to get the hydrant to put the water out. All right. So solution number 2 is to go to the secondary hydrant 400 feet away. So now the fire department's hoses come in 100 feet. So they got to couple the hoses. So they pull out the hoses. They run 4 or 5 hoses to get to the hydrant that has pressure. But guess what they don't have? The freaking coupling. So now they got to drive back to the firehouse to get the coupling. We watching this dude's whole house is engulfed. $1 million house burning to the ground. His wife crying. And they got to run to the firehouse to get a coupling. By the time they come back to put the coupling on, house done burned to the ground. Now, I say all this to say that that's the black community, right? We got to call people that don't look like us to come, and then they put an inferior infrastructure in our community that doesn't work when it's supposed to during an emergency situation. Wasn't nobody else in this community able to put that fire down? With all these pools that's in the community, Negroes got 100,000 gallon pools. Couldn't nobody figure out how to pull water from them pools to put this man's house out? Didn't nobody have no 100,000 gallons on tap? But they all got their fists in the air screaming black power. But can't nobody put their own fires out. So I'm saying all this to say, if when we get back to the consciousness or the conscience of what it is that we're dealing with, the ancestors figured that out. They figured out how to control their natural resource and generate power. That's number one. They figured that out. They figured out how to store that energy. We're still trying to back engineer the freaking pyramid to see what that was about. And so all I'm saying is we gotta mimic that in some type of way. You know what I'm saying? We have to control our energy source. I'm not saying totally jump off the grid, but substitute it. The science on how this planet is warming up is real. You're going to be running your air more during the summertime, and you're going to be trying to figure out how to heat your house up more during the winter, because the winters are going to get colder and the summers are going to get hotter. There's no running away from that. So if you're not building your house with that type of infrastructure, you're done. Then we got to educate our kids, man. Our kids are learning about things that make no sense. How are our kids going to become anything in the future when the current educational system that is in America today for the public education system is creating 3rd grade level reading and a laboring class? That's what the Rockefellers put the $100 million up to do, and that's currently what's happening. Everyone's being told to save their money. No one's being told how to multiply their money or how to invest their money. And these ideas from these oligarchs, and they have spending a lot of money to push these systems. This is what's keeping black folks in check. The whole notion of having a mortgage is keeping Negroes in check. The etymology on the word mortgage, mort means death. The second word is engagement. It's an engagement until death, but they keep pushing it on us, and we keep buying into it, and we keep thinking that this is our way. It has an association with being free, freedom through the mortgage, getting your piece of the American pie, home ownership through owning a mortgage. All of this is false, man. The secondary document that you sign when you own a mortgage is an amortization schedule, and it's 150 to 300 pages in which you dictate how you're going to die. The word literally means causation of a slow death, amortization schedule. And this is the schedule which you run for 360 payments that says, I'm going to pay my mortgage on this date.
Hey,
So
Doc,
these-
Doc, let me just, before you
I'm
get
just-
into that, because that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. I don't want to give them too much too soon. I wanted to kind of I want to definitely hold that, because I want to give you, we're going to come back to that about the mortgages. And that's something
cool.
that I want.
I'm just
I
saying
want something.
we got to get off of this system. That's all I'm getting to.
No,
I'm gonna get all
absolutely,
deep into that.
absolutely. But I want you to hold that thought, and family, that is some of the things that we're going to be talking about in the workshops. Dr. David Anderson is an expert at finding ways to obtain property without having mortgages, and these are some of the things. Listen, you can call it for what it is.
That's
And
what it
these are some
is.
of the
I
things-
appreciate it.
And these are some of the things that we're going to be discussing while we're in Kemet on the cruise. By the way, we have our own ship. We're going to have a chartered ship exclusively for our group. And we're going to curate, and within that space, we're going to curate a very special experience. And this is one of the things that we're going to be doing. Now, I'm going to stick with you. Then I'm going to go back to my man, Jamaar Milton. We talk about community. We talk about these various different things. But I need to understand the aggregation. Or how the hell do we aggregate our wealth? Because we have a real hard time just coming together doing simple things. And Brother Jamaar Milton started off with talking about essentially new consciousness looks like, or the new age of consciousness looks like us not doing it individualistically anymore, but as a community. And one of the things when I think about in terms of doing it as a community is the aggregation of wealth. So we're going to stay here with you. We're going to move on to my brother. What are your thoughts on that?
So I was recently asked to by a mega church, if you will, in Atlanta, to kind of help to organize a community, kind of like what we're discussing right now. So this particular church owns over like 300 acres of land, and they want to dedicate a certain number of acreage to this concept of having the aged community, the older people in the community who are members of this church, partnering with a co-op with the younger people. Some of these younger people might be, having challenges or whatever. They might be getting ready to go to jail. Instead of sending them to jail, they can put some of them into this program co-op with the aged community. So then the question that we're discussing right now comes up like, well, what does this community look like? So of course, number one, I'm injecting, control of energy to some extent, water, power, all these types of things. Because I've done this at my business, I've done this at my primary residence. So this is not speculation. This is like stuff that we actually do. Education, being able to educate our own people on the property, affordable housing, which is another challenge in our community, and then food security. I got a little bit of pushback. Well, not really pushback, but more of a garden than farming. I was kind of like, yo, we need to produce our own food, but at least to some extent, they're receptive to the whole gardening concept and possibly having a grocery store on the property. So I say all this to say, when we look at what community looks like, the Jews have this book called the Talmud, and inside the Talmud, it's like 78 different books, and there's about 20 books dedicated to what this looks like in terms of building their community, and what there's like rules on how they do business within their own community in terms of how their money is to circulate like 17 times before it exits, and also that they have a responsibility to fund these kinds of efforts. So then we get down to the original question was, how are these things financed? And so, Bank of America and Chase and all of them is not giving us no $10 million to $20 million to do something like this. If you want to free yourself, for instance, you have to do this on your own. So a lot of these kinds of projects are privately funded or privately financed. And my company uses self-directed IRAs. And that concept is basically, real quick, I'll just explain it to those that might not be familiar with it. A lot of people are steered by Vanguard, Edward Jones, TD Bank, all of these major, Fidelity, all of these major companies, and they invest totally in the equities or commodities market on the stock market. They don't invest in real estate, which is a tangible project. They don't invest in gold, which is God's money. They don't invest in precious metals. They don't invest in insurance contracts. They don't invest in private equity. These are alternative funding solutions or alternative asset classes. And so what we do with these self-directed IRAs is that we basically leverage them to roll over a portion of funds that are on the market that might be invested in the equities market or in the stock market and not doing really well. And we'll roll those funds over that are non-performing. And we'll use those funds in the self-directed IRA to do development projects or acquire real estate. So that's how I've been able to fund my projects. I never really have had to go and ask for money or whatever, because all of the people in the portfolio that we deal with look like us. And, when I explain to them what the project is and I show, the return on investment, and we've got a history of the past 12 years of doing this and successful with it, money comes out of the sky, literally.
Let me jump in real quick.
I say all that to say, raising funds in our community is not the challenge, because I raised like $10, $20 million annually for the past like 10 years. So that's not the challenge. The challenge is being able to get your projects completed and, you know, in a timely fashion, in my opinion, respectfully.
Right. So I just want to just kind of ask you about getting, because I think what we're talking about is getting the black folks to the table, to trust each other well enough to want to collude and work with each other. Because we've been kind of taught that, you know, white ice is colder and all that stuff like that. So when we talk about the aggregation of wealth and just bringing us together, it seems like you've had success in figuring out ways how to engage other black people to trust each other enough to be like, you know what, let's pool our wealth together. And for us, that seemed to be the challenge to be able to do that. How have you been successful in doing that?
So with some people, it is a challenge. You know what I'm saying? Um, but you got to qualify folks. Everybody says they want to do this, but at the end of the day, when you got to cut a check for this, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to invest in this. And so if we're speaking to 1,000 people, right, 900 of them is gonna have their fists in the air, be like, "Yo, Dr. Anderson," they're gonna be ramped up, they're gonna be juiced up. But when it comes time to raise this $10 million to move this dirt and build this community, I'm probably gonna speak to like between 50 to 100 people, of which those people might have 50,000 to a $500,000 that they got in retirement that they're willing to invest in. Everybody's not everybody's not in a position, I won't say financially, because our spending power is $1.4 trillion for the past 5 years or 10 years, but it's mentally. You know what I'm saying? Some black folks suffer from this crab in the bucket mentality, but when we trying to do projects, those are the people we don't want to talk to. We don't want to talk to those people that have that mentality. We want to discuss building, moving dirt with people who have the capability to respond to that. Because, you know, if you're taking somebody that doesn't have the capability to invest in a project like that, you know, like I have some contemporaries, I don't want to put them on blast right now, but I have some contemporaries that are of this notion that you can invest in real estate with $100, okay? And they've been on the internet aggregating funds, you know, under the auspice of Black collectiveness and everything that Dr. Claude Anderson discusses. And then they got to defend themselves against the SEC, not because they're fraudulent, but because they aggregated 15,000 people who were not in positions. They weren't in positions to invest in an asset class that requires you to invest more than $100. So we have to have real conversations in our community, and it's no disrespect, but you know, when the white folks give offerings, public offerings, you got to be an accredited investor, which means you have a $5 million net worth. Everybody doesn't have that. So when we get into Black economics and group economics, we have to have a qualification, you know, background thing to see who's mentally ready and who has at least 50 to 100,000 in their retirement that's not doing anything from a previous employer. That's the quantifying question. If they can say yes to that, then they get to go to the presentation and we show them how they can, you know, earn interest on their money. But if that process is not dealt with and people are just on the internet talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna change our community, we're gonna do this, we're gonna invest in our own community and forget the white man, and we're not qualifying these people, then you're gonna have to respond to the SEC on some kind of fraudulent claim, because the moment somebody don't get their $100, that's who they're gonna call. So we have to be very delicate in who we're speaking to when it comes to those kinds of opportunities. We can talk to everybody all day, but it's like an invitation, man. You know, you gotta be in a position to really invest in those kind of opportunities and of the same mindset. And we spend a lot of time trying to sort through the barrel to find those individuals. But they're out there. I mean, it ain't like we broke. We just have to do a little bit more explaining to our people on how things work, because, you know, the financial piece is not something that is at the top of our minds like that. It ain't saying that we can't understand self-direction and how self-direction works. It just says that, hey, you know, this is what's important. And I'll just say this to say, man, I spent a lot of, Claude Anderson is not doing well right now. A lot of people think that he's my dad, and he's not, but he is somebody that has heavily influenced my career. And the one thing that he keeps saying, I mean, because I had asked that he speak at Juneteenth in Atlanta, and his wife was just like, it's just not happening. So his health is failing him. But one thing that he said the other day, man, on the phone was that, David, we have to get black people to invest in each other. He was real adamant about it. From the bed, like, you know, lay in a laid down position. We got to get black people to invest with each other. Meaning, I took this to understand that I don't have to go to Chase to get a loan. And in fact, I've never accepted no real money from no white people, ever. In my whole 16-year career in real estate, I've never accepted a mortgage. I've never accepted no SBA 501, 504 loan, 7A loan, none of that. My loans have always been private loans from people that look like me. That's how serious we are about this. So there's ways to do it. I'm still practicing. I'm still learning how to be more tactful in dealing with our folks when it comes to money. But those people that can't afford to invest, you know, more than $100 don't need to be in the room. They could be in the room listening, but then when it comes down to the opportunity, the room needs to change. You know, maybe those people that only had $100, they stay in the back of the room and get some products or a book or audio book, and they can get themselves in a position. But the people that are ready to go, they need to come to the front of the room, and they need to understand what this project is about and what their return on investment is going to be. That's the people that we need to pay attention to, and those people are in our community.
Thank you, brother. Peace. Family, please like, comment, and share again. We had this is a phenomenal discussion. It's going on levels that exceeded my expectations. I'm very pleased about that. Also want to say thank you for everyone who showed their love through the Cash Apps. Thank you, family. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. Brother Jamaar, just, you know, as we look at what it looks like to aggregate, you know, wealth, and how do we find ways to work together in our community, Brother David was talking about, he kind of opened the door for ethics. He was, you know, speaking about there are the possibility, the potential for people to do things unethical in our community when we look in terms of trying to come together, bring folks together, and have these projects. People, you know, give money and they fund these things, but they really shouldn't be in those spaces. So before you kind of tie into, you know, how do we find ways to work together to aggregate our wealth, I want you to kind of talk about, you know, what that looked like in ancient Kemet in terms of just being more ethical. What was the ethical dilemma for us? How do we structure ourselves to prevent us from taking advantage of people?
Well, one of the things, you know, we definitely live by the 42 laws of Ma'at, maybe more. You know, there are more laws to Ma'at. Those who don't know what Ma'at is, it's the deity that refers to balance, truth, justice, reciprocity. This was always at the forefront of everything that they did. Let me see if I can pull one up here. I might have a picture I can show you guys. This is Ma'at. Okay, you may have seen this around. You'll see this on T-shirts, everywhere. You know, she's usually represented with a feather on her head. Okay, it's an ostrich feather, and that feather, your heart is supposed to be lighter than that feather, right? As you live your life and the different things that you do, you should always have a light heart, right? So, you know, someone with a heavy heart, you know, the differences between the two, you know, you make decisions based on one who is lighthearted, right? And one who is making decisions based on order and justice, things that are in a system that depend on laws as opposed to opinions, right? Things that depend on laws of the universe. This is what Ma'at represented. This is what she protected. If you look at Ma'at, you'll also see her at times wrapped around other deities. Why do you see that? Because Ma'at is the only deity that is tasked with balancing everything. So you'll see her in the middle of everything that's going on. You'll see her represented by the scales here on this book here on the Wisdom of Amenemhotep. This is another book that we used to live by, some of the scriptures that the ancient Kemites lived by. We also studied the Husia, which means divine words. These are different books that you guys can pick up. 3 books that I would recommend. It's the Husia, which is number 1. That's one of the things that we still live by today. The instructions of Amenemhotep, and also the oldest book in the world, the teachings of Ptah-hotep. A lot of times when we think about moral and ethical code, we only think about the Bible or the Torah or whatever religions we're talking about. This is the oldest book in the world. And when you deal with this book, You're dealing with an African vizier who wrote this, who basically lays out the laws and ethical morals and principles that we live by today, back then, prior to all the stuff that we live on. Because, you know, a lot of misconceptions about Egypt, about, you know, people who don't know about Egypt, they say, well, you know, Egypt was evil, right? They did all sorts of wicked things. But when you go back into the teachings and what they stood on, you know, it says quite the opposite, quite the contrary. They're the reasons why we even have the concept of sin or heaven or hell or afterlife. They gave us that. So everything they did was based on thinking about, A, the future. Well, almost everything they did was based on what was yet to come. Everything that we know about Kemet is what they left for us. They expected us to find it. They expect for us to know this information, to study this information. They knew we would get lost. So that's the first thing, you know, is setting that stage so that if we want to look at it in present times, where we're not just well off, but our children's children are okay. They understand the science. A lot of times we just want to get right and get us together, but we don't think about the future of this. How does this look? You see what I'm saying? For the future, how does this lay down a foundation for them? Because the things that they say in these texts are things that last through any generation, whether you're dealing with the 1920s or the 2050s. These are laws that do not change. The laws of cause and effect, karma, things like that. These are all illustrated in these writings. So, you know, the Husia is one that I would say for present time. If you are modern day studying ancient Egypt and you want to see the moral and ethical code of what they did, the Husia would be the first one that I would pick up. And they're very cheap books. They're not too expensive. Next is the Teachings of Ptah-hotep. And then next will be the Instructions of Amenemhotep III. Now, Amenemhotep III, his book is actually the chapters of Proverbs. There are 30 chapters in Proverbs. There are 30 chapters in the Instructions of Amenemhotep. And some scholars say word for word, it was taken from Amenemhotep. So, you know, understanding that concept, Proverbs is one of the wisest books in the Bible. So if Ptah-hotep, rather Amenemhotep wrote these teachings, you know, it's something that you should know, you know, and bouncing off, you know, of what my brother, you know, was saying in reference to what we need to do about aggregating funds, you know, like I said, it first and foremost is going to come with culture, right? Like, one thing about Black people, I don't care if we got $5 in our pocket. If it's something that we want, we will spend that entire $5 over a plate of food. We will go and buy that new Jay-Z CD back in the day, or that new whatever we needed, that cassette tape. We will spend our last dollar on it, is what I'm trying to say. So it's not like he said, it's not like the money's not there, right? The money is circulating throughout the community. We have to make things cool again. See, we're not going to move on nothing that ain't cool. If it don't fit the culture and it's not something that everybody's doing, because Black people move as a unit for the most part when we're trying to deal with that culture, style, what's hot, what's not. And things tend to go in like waves, right? Because we're testing it out. This is why we have fads. It's because it's hot right now. Can it last? You see what I'm saying? So when we're dealing with Kemet and we're dealing with or aggregating funds, we're dealing with education, when we're dealing with Black empowerment, anything that we're dealing with as far as culture, we have to first make it cool again. You see what I'm saying? Like, before I started delving into this with the hip hop and stuff like that, I was just a scholar. If you follow my career, I was just teaching. You see what I'm saying? But then I realized, like, yo, these young boys ain't gonna get it unless I put it in a song. I gotta put it in a song, because while I'm trying to teach, in the background, they hearing, you know, walk it like I talk it. They hearing, you know, everything that else is going on. So at some point, we have to infuse what we have, this knowledge, this power, right? This influence. We have to infuse it in the things that matter to them, the people that we're talking to. We got to meet them where they're at. You see? Because some of them have no idea what's going on. And like my brother said, you also still have to delegate, though, right? There's certain areas and you have to compartmentalize. There are certain people that are meant for the outer tier and some people that are meant to be the investors. You see, when I first came into the conscious community, I was brand new. I didn't know who was who. So I was trusting everybody. I'm like, oh, this is what it is, Black people. And then I realized, like, wait a minute. Everybody's not on the same page here. Everybody don't know what we trying to do here and see the goal and the vision. I might have to, have some other people on that side and some people on this side to figure out who's who. You see what I'm saying? Because you'll have yourself mixed up. There's a lot of people that I worked with in the past. I will never work with it again. Black or not, I don't care. They're not on that level. It does not matter. Like, you can't work with everybody. When we deal with in ancient Egypt, let's bring it back to Egypt. In Egypt, when you had the temples where education was held, right? Because a lot of people look at temples like you just go there to worship. No, the temples was little schools, you see? And you couldn't just walk right in the temple and go talk to the priest. You're not coming and come touch the priest. You had to sit outside sometimes for years. The priest would come out every once in a while and ask a question. Depending upon how you answered that question would determine whether or not you got into the next area, the next sanctum, which you might sit there for another 10 years. You're not getting into the inner sanctum for another 40 years. This is why Freemasons have to wait that long to reach master masonry, because they took it from out of ancient Kemet. That's that whole lineup, that whole concept. The system came from there. It's already laid out for us, family. They're using the system against us. You see? So they delegate who gets to live and who gets to die, who gets to read and who doesn't, who gets to be a doctor and who gets to be in the lower. They delegate. They make sure they compartmentalize the educated from the uneducated. We had 5 different levels, 5 different languages in Egypt, 5 different ways of producing the metal netta. It wasn't just hieroglyphics, right? You had Demotic, you had cryptic, you had Coptic, you had all different types of metal netta. Some was meant for the lower tier, those who really couldn't read and write, and then some was meant for royalty. You see what I'm saying? So separating that and doing that peacefully is the stage that we're at right now, because everybody feels because we have a voice that everybody needs to say something, right? But not everybody has something to say. Some people just feel the need to say something. So we're in that stage now of the age of Aquarius where we're trying to sift through that. Like we're sifting through who's who. Who are the leaders? Who are the speakers? Right? Who are the auditory ones? Who are the warriors? Only call in when it's time for action, when it's time to bang. We're trying to figure out who's who. But we're doing that in the midst of building. So we have to give ourselves some credit, because some individuals are going to be leveling up during that time and they need to have that coaching and that, that assistance. So we're going to need people. We're going to need teachers, right? People that aren't actually in the field doing the investing or doing the work for us, but they're teaching people how to do it. You see what I'm saying? They're dedicated to the love of nurturing the minds. We need those individuals. Then we need those who are powerhouses. Some people who just got the money. They're just looking for a place to invest, right? They're there for the cause. Make sure that they're being serviced, right? And then, of course, the ones who have been holding it down, we got to talk to them. Those are the ones we got to talk to. The higher-ups, the ones with billions of dollars who turn a blind eye to the things we're talking about right now. The athletes, the actors, the well-offs, right? They tend to, when they get to a certain level, walk away from the community, you see? And the dollars that they work so hard for all their life aren't going to stay in our community after they're dead. They go back to their white wives and they go back to their, whoever else their overseers are who are going to take over. So we have to, we got to fix that, because these are things that are important. There's a reason why other cultures have organized marriages. There's a reason. It's not because they just want to control love. It ain't got nothing to do with love. It's about economics. It's about economics. If we understand that, right, we can now think a little bit differently. Even though we incorporate love into it, we got to think about it. We can balance things out, use my eyes, because it's not just all about love when you're coming together with somebody, right? Economics plays a role too. So there's a lot of variables, and this is why we need bodies. We need people that understand what it is that we're doing and delegate them, put them in their certain roles so that they can play their task. That's how we're going to aggregate the funds and keep it sustained, right? If it's cool, it will sustain, right? Just overnight, we change baggy jeans to tight jeans, just like that. It can be done. It can be done. We just got to say that's not cool anymore. This is what's cool, right?
So it's about economics. I like that. And family, with that being said, discover the origins of economics in Egypt with HAPI, February 16th to the 25th. You got to be there. to register for the trip, to register for this journey, this pilgrimage, www.aketours.com. There you can see the flyer there. Once again, Happy 2024 tour to Egypt. I like where the brother Jamaar just left off at, talking about the economics and how essential it is. And it's about the economics, even talking about bringing unions of two people together. With that in mind, when we speak about economics, Dr. David Anderson, I just kind of wanted to kind of get into an economic question with you. From an economic standpoint, what are some of the responsibilities a leader must have?
So I speak a lot, and first of all, yo, this dude Jamar, we gotta hang out. I need a nigga shirt. So I'm gonna send. Yeah, I'm gonna send you the address, man. I'm gonna send you the address to the office in Atlanta. I need to get a niggas by nature. But to Taki's point, I am offended. So first of all, I speak, obviously, and sometimes I find myself on these panels with people who are not in the same economic position that I am, and I'm not trying to flex right now, you know, evoking the laws of my art and keeping it light as a feather. Okay. But as a leader, when it comes to economics, I try to speak from a point of strength, right? So I say that to say that I have taken the last 20 years to put myself in a position to not have a primary mortgage on my primary home, a mortgage on my secondary residence, or on my business. And I have some other properties that don't have mortgages, and I don't want to get into all of that. But I just say that to say, I just think that if we're gonna speak or be, the leader, that person should at least be in a position to do such, right? So I've been blessed. I got, a little real estate company that I run that does pretty well. And, I have a staff. I have 5 attorneys that work for me. I got 7 brokers. We got a whole research and development department, and I own the brokerage and the title company. So I would say it was not a little, but it's a pretty formidable shop as it relates to real estate and those kinds of issues. But I just say I have an issue when we on these panels and there's people that don't have tax returns showing that they did no $1 million, but they sitting here telling people how to make $1 million, right? I've had the IRS send me bills for $500,000 and then have to mitigate that. All right, so I'm very clear on what donor advised funds are, and my nonprofit is putting kids through school. I'm very clear on the contributions on self-directed IRAs, on my 401k, on my HSA, on my ESA, on my Roth IRA. You know what I'm saying? And the brother Jamar was talking about making things cool. We have to get into what is going on and make that cool, because there's so many of us that owe, 100,000 or 50,000. That's kind of our sweet spot, right? You start crying. Oh, the IRS sent me a bill for 50 G. Like, shouldn't nobody be crying about that when you can contribute up to $60,000, $66,000 now to your solo 401k? Like, if you're making adequate contributions to your retirement, you shouldn't be crying about no $50,000 tax bill to the IRS. But that's what I'm talking about. People don't know that. They don't know that they can, contribute. 60% of your contributions to 501c3s are written off, but 100% of the fair market value on non-cash donations goes to you. What does that mean? That means that if you got a piece of property that you don't really want, that your grandma left to you, that might be worth $500,000 or $1 million, you could donate that to a donor advised fund and get fair market value for that. That's an instant tax credit. That ain't, I need to use my son or my baby mama's child to get an earned income tax credit. That ain't, let me go find my 5 different W-2s. That's straight up tax law. That ain't no new lobbying strategy. That ain't no Wesley Snipes or Ron Isley or no, what's the girl's name that got stopped at JFK and they sent her to jail, coming from Jamaica with the Bob Marley's baby mama? Lauryn Hill. They got her on that. Anyway, I say all this to say these are the things that we got to start focusing on, because then we can move like that. And so I'm really big on that. I'm really big on, when we go to these conferences, they ask you to speak, and I'm on panel with these so-called experts. Can't nobody put up no tax return? Can't nobody show that I had to mitigate 500 G's or a million. Nobody's doing that unless they're doing it. And so you shouldn't be having to speak on those kinds of issues or leading or be a so-called leader if you're not in that position. Is my personal opinion on that. So I practice to maintain my position so that I can continue to show other people how to be in this position. It's not enough for the Anderson family, to be benefiting for this. And people that know me know my entire staff doesn't have mortgages. They don't have no car notes or mortgages. So I'm not just looking for myself to be in this position. I'm looking to, like, what they call free other slaves. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when we're moving, that's how we're moving. We're not just moving like, oh, I'm the dude. No, my whole staff is straight. And that's how we need to be moving, in my opinion.
And we're looking forward to you bringing that information with you to Kemet with us in February and dropping those jewels so people know how to move like that as well. Brother Jamaar, I just want to just shift gears quickly. And there is something that's, going on this year, in regards to the 50th anniversary of hip hop. We know you being a rap artist yourself. First things first, we talked also about making it cool. That was one of the big things, kind of making it cool. And you're just dealing with the new generation or the next generation of rap. Like, how do we keep, the flavor in terms of the consciousness and elevate the vibration? Because the reality is, when we look at hip hop now, the vibration is very low. How do we elevate that vibration and keep it cool at the same time? You know what I mean? And as we talk about this 50th anniversary of hip hop, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll say first and foremost, you just got to be it. Like, hip hop is literally a culture. Even though we were here when it was created, it doesn't necessarily feel as such. We don't realize how much impact it's had on the world. So you got to actually be what it is that you're looking for in the universe. Like, when I first started, our slogan was "Be the change you want to see." That was the slogan, because a lot of times, even like the brother was saying, it's like we're looking for leaders, or we're looking to be something or somebody to help us to get somewhere, and the person that we're going to is not even it. So we don't even know what it looks like, right? So, like, I can't give you what peaceful hip hop looks like unless I approach hip hop in peace. Does that make sense? Like, if I'm drilling to myself drill music all day and that's all I'm hearing, how could I produce good unified hip hop? How could I produce hip hop that's peaceful, that's not shooting and killing nobody? You can't put out what you don't put in. It goes back to what I was saying before. A lot of us, in terms of music, we have to change even the culture of music and how we get our diet of music. Most of us get our music, from the radio. We throw the radio on in our car, and that's how we get our music for most of us. And even if we don't want to get it that way, we're still getting it that way, on top of however else we get it. So there's an agenda, there's a whole different system that's set up for you automatically, right? When's the last time you actually bought an album? But I bet you know the words to songs you haven't even bought. How does that happen? It's because there's a culture set up to literally feed it to you, infuse it to you. Everywhere you go, you don't even know you're getting it sometimes. You're singing the song, and the car drives past and it's playing the version and the part that you're singing in your head. Why? Because it's in the airwaves. Literally, when you turn on the airway, it's always playing. You're just tuning into the frequency. You're being fed this 24/7. So if you don't consciously take the effort to say, hey, I'm turning off the radio, I'm turning off the TV, I'm going to stream the artists that I want to support and love. Because guess what? There are more artists out there that are doing what it is that I'm doing in conscious rap than you can believe. They're just not on the radio. They're not being supported. They're dropping music every single day. If you know, you know. If you're in the culture, you see them. You link up with them. Y'all do things together, and stuff like that. But to get the collective to understand that this is going on, we have to first make it cool to listen to things other than what they're being given. That is the hard thing to do. Because I don't even want to say the hard thing. that is the thing that needs to be done. Because if we make it cool to be an individual as far as taste when it comes to music versus following the status quo, more and more people will gravitate towards what it is that really moves their soul and their spirit. If we're only feeding them, let's put it this way, they've monetized and they've incentivized negative music. They've made it cool. So they're going to gravitate to what the radio is playing because it's enforcing and reinforcing the culture. If we put, like we said, our monies and our economic plans into conscious hip hop, it changes the demographic now, right? Now, if we make conscious hip hop the guys that are making a lot of money, successful on every TV screen, if we make those guys the guy, now that's who they want to be. When Lauryn Hill was out, everybody wanted to be Lauryn. Lauryn was conscious as close as you're going to get to a female being conscious in rap. You see what I'm saying? And she had all the women rocking natural dreadlocks. But when I credit all of that to Miss Hill, I look at what's going on now, and I just think in my head, Lauryn Hill would never. She would never. And that's why you don't see her around. Because she can't mix in that culture. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, once you make the culture, and once you make it cool and you make them embrace that lifestyle of this is whack, the radio is whack, and going out and finding dope artists is cool, like we did with records. People would go into the record store and just look for exclusive LPs that nobody has. I got this LP nobody got. That was a culture. It still lives today. People still buy vinyl today because it's a culture. Once it's there, the energy can only transform. It can't be destroyed. It can only transform. Hip hop has changed faces and names many times. People have died, and it's still there because the energy never goes anywhere. You think you're going to kill the rap and you're going to kill rap? No, it don't work that way. You're going to lock up even if you lock up a gangster rapper, the energy is still there. The energy is in the streets. The things that created that gangster rapper are still in the streets. It's not going anywhere. You're better off understanding how to compartmentalize it. You know, go where the love is. People say, I don't got no fault. I don't understand why everybody hating. It's because you going where the hate is. That's it. Go where the love is. My timeline is filled with love. I don't know what's going on with you. Because when you got your Facebook, it was empty. How did you end up with a bunch of haters on your time? You click friend. You click follow me. You click, you click add him as a friend. That's what you did. So if you got a whole bunch of garbage on your timeline, it ain't nobody's fault but yours. You got to go to what you're looking for. So that's why I say be the change you want to see. As soon as you become that change, now your universe will change. Everything else around you will change. I would be on another hip hop station right now talking rhetoric, talking about drill music and how I'm the illest ever, and I'd be talking crazy if I wasn't in an environment where it's conducive to be myself. You see what I'm saying? I got to put myself there.
So on that note, environments conducive to be yourself. I want you to kind of share with the family your thoughts on performing on the now and transformative energy and what that's like for you. I can see the smile on your face. What that's like for you and your thoughts and how the family should receive that as well.
I'm gonna give you a politically correct statement because the way my manifestations work, I don't like to talk too much before things happen. Okay.
Respect.
Right? This is all a process here. I'm staying in this frequency. I'm gonna just say this. This is the time for something like this. And this is when hard work meets preparation. You know, we have been seeing this visually for a long time for us as a people, but it has yet to actually roll out to the magnitude that we wanted. We have heard, artists perform in Africa before and do different things. This is the first time like we're really going to see the authentic scholarly type stuff going on there, so it's a little bit different what we're doing. It's very new. I shot a video in Egypt inside the pyramids for the first time, a music video. I was the first artist to do that, to actually bring a camera in there. But to perform on the Nile, for me, it's like homecoming, man. You know, it's like New York is my home, but performing in Egypt is the pinnacle of my career. You know, I don't think anybody's going to be able to top that as far as what you can possibly do here on this earth with hip hop. It's like going back to the Mecca, all this. It's like I'm at a loss for words. All I can do is smile and keep good energy in the air, and you know, just wait for the moment, because I know how the universe works. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just keeping my heart light as a feather, and I just can't wait to get to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? To just get there again. You know what I'm saying? With my friends and family, and do what I do, and let them see that yo, I told y'all, like, you know what I mean? Like, we can do this. You know what I mean?
Right,
we can do this. So that's,
and listen, brother, I appreciate your energy, and family, that's the type of energy that's going to be with us in February. Yo, it's going to be, energy is going to be so high, the vibration is going to be so high. It is, listen, I'm excited about it. I ain't going to miss it. You know, it definitely, like I said, we got the luxury chartered cruise. There's going to be so many different activities. We're going to have our linen party of live musical performances, as we talk about economic workshops, presentations, exercise and meditation at sunrise on the deck, as well as visiting all of the other, the sites in Kemet, Abu Simbel, Giza, Saqqara, Dashur, the East-West Bank, Philae, and places that are exclusive to the HAPI Tour. And we call it the HAPI Tour because these places were places that were actually shot in the documentary, like the tomb of Amos, son of Abana, and Harkuf, who I like to look at as being our resident ancestor, because Harkuf was the governor and the governor of Elephantine, or the Aswan region, and he was responsible for trade and economics during that time. So it was so important. We talk about discover the origins. These are some of the people that we're going to be visiting and paying our respects to, is understanding that they're doing what we're doing now, or we're trying to do, and we got to get back to that mindset. So when we say the HAPI Tour, the places and the things that we're going to be doing are very exclusive to HAPI. So family, definitely go register, and Akia Tours register and book now. So, Dr. Anderson, one of the things that, during this conversation kept coming up to me is the importance of, what does the future look like, and how do we move forward? And I think, like we lost a brother, we'll come back to him in a second. We'll come back on. So, Brother Jamaar, I'm gonna get that question to you because it's gonna come to you anyway after Dr. Anderson kind of answered it. But what does the future look like, and how do we move forward?
For the first time in, like, I'd say 5 years, I think that it's looking bright, for the Black community. Since 2020, I think 2020 was a real wake-up call for us, voluntarily or involuntarily. I think a lot of us woke up during that year. Some of us as leaders will woke up a couple of years before that, or even serving all our lives, the ones that were born into the conscious community. But I think that for the next 5 to 10 years, it's looking real good for our community, simply because the awareness is there. Before, you could probably feel it. It just felt like a veil was on us as a collective, to where even if you knew what was up, you kind of had to keep your mouth shut and not tell too many people, because it could have a reverse effect on you. Now that's not so. Now, by you taking that step and walking into this type of lifestyle, recognizing your worth as a descendant of Africans, recognizing that your bloodline and where you come from is of value, can take you literally from A to Z. You're literally, when I say be the change, you're looking at somebody who started his career and his movement and his upper mobility sitting on the front stoop of a step in the ghetto. Okay? In the ghetto. I had one room when I started. There were people that were doing this for 30 years. I came into this game a couple years ago, maybe about 7, 8 years ago, and I was sitting on my stoop just saying, I feel a shift in the universe, you know? And that's how I got here. Now I have doing a show in Egypt. I got land in Ghana, you know, more self-esteem, you know who you are, right? And more importantly, peace of mind, the real bag. After all of this, what you're really looking for is peace of mind, just being comfortable in your own skin. For some of us, it's very hard to even swallow that we're not comfortable in our own skin. It's a jagged pill to swallow, you know? That's why the hustle and bustle, we feel we always got to do something. So the next couple of years for us as a community, like I said, that unity piece is going to come together, that collective piece, where people are going to realize we all one and the same and nobody's free until we all are. I think that that's where we're going to go, you know? But there's a flip side to this. I got to get a disclaimer. And I'm going to be 100% real. Everybody can't go. Hold on. Hold on. I'm going to rewind it. Everybody can't go. The higher you start going up in consciousness, you're going to start outgrowing situations, places, people, and things. When I didn't want to smoke cigarettes anymore, I had to quit my job busting tables. Because every break, they're going to have a smoke break or a drink break. I had to change my environment for the betterment of myself and where I'm trying to go. So some of you are going to be in that space where you realize, in order for me to get to where I'm going, I actually have to actually leave where I am. When you actually realize that, like, it sounds easy and simple, but it's a lot more layered and complex. Never sign or subscribe to anything you can't pick up and leave in 30 seconds. Because everything that you need in this universe is right here. It's already in you. And I think collectively we all starting to realize that. And that's why people are starting to move into the spaces where they need to be. So that's what I see for us and stuff.
Peace, brother. Thank you. Dr. Anderson, thank us. Glad to have you back. So we kind of lost you there for a second. You're muted. You actually muted your mic. You want to unmute it? There you go.
And I was I didn't want to have no background noise while the brother was breaking it down. But yeah, I'm here, man. The battery just got kind of low, so sorry about that.
No, I kind of figured that. So we were actually going to start with you, but you dropped out right before I could ask you the question. But I'm gonna go back to that. The question was, what does the future look like, and how do we? And what's the roadmap for us to get there? How do we get there?
The future for Black people, or the future?
Yes.
For humanity?
Yeah. For us, for Black people. And better yet, let me actually even narrow that down a little further.
Well, no, I can.
But no, I know you can, but I just want to just make sure it's clear, because I think one of the things here on the show when we talk about the new age of consciousness is that we understand who we are, particularly the three of us, who we are, and the responsibility of just what the future looks like. What is the real roles and responsibilities of that? So when we look at what does the future look like and how do we get there, kind of like what will be your kind of blueprint in terms of that for people, just trying to take this
I got it.
conscious to conscious.
Yeah, so white folks have these futurism talks, right? Or TED Talks, and they talk about futurism. It's an actual whole thing. And I find it interesting because I actually had another conversation where I was invited to speak about this exact topic, Black futurism. And this group invited me to come and talk about it, and I was like, yo, if we're going to do this, we got to bring over Lonnie Johnson. So some of people might not know Lonnie Johnson is a famed inventor, Black inventor. His laboratory is actually down the street from my office. And Lonnie is most noted with creating something called the Super Soaker. Hasbro didn't give him his royalties, and he sued him. He got like $150 million, and he bought an entire block in downtown Atlanta off of Decatur Street and built a laboratory and in this laboratory, he's got black scientists working on new projects that are related to energy. And actually, my son goes to the lab on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this guy is the person when it comes to like black futurism and black energy and sustainability and all this stuff. He's heavily influential on, you know, our builds, our sustainable builds in Atlanta. So we have to he's like the modern day George Washington Carver. So when we're talking about what does the future look like, it goes back to this original conversation we were having when we first started, when we're injecting the control of energy, the importance of education, affordable housing, food security, and our ability to multiply our efforts in terms of our economics. In my mind, that's what the future holds. When you talk to billionaire Michael V. Roberts, who's also extremely close, and he just sold his hotel in Detroit to Dan Gilbert, the dude that owns Quicken Loans. Like, the first soon as Mr. Roberts sold his hotel, he flew to Atlanta to have dinner with me and talk about this exact subject of black futurism. What does it look like? And Mr. Roberts is like, yo, we got to control our energy. We have to be in control of our energy because, and not just our physical energy, you know what I'm saying? We got to be in control of our actual energy. And so when we start understanding these things, we got to start practicing these things. We got to start doing these things. They can't just be conversations. I want to walk in the future. When you ask what does the future look like, I want to walk into other homes that are owned by black folks, free and clear, where they don't have to pay a power bill because they got batteries and they figured out how to put solar panels and wind turbines or wind walls, on their property to generate their own energy. I want to drink water from out of black people's homes that's actually clean. This is funny, man. Most people don't understand. When you take a dump, when you go to the bathroom and you take a dump, that sewage goes to something called the water treatment plant. The water treatment plant treats the sewage. That's the model. The business model or protocol is that they treat the sewage and they repurpose that sewage and send that sewage back to your house and you drink it. That's what the tap water is. The tap water is boiled sewage water that they treat and they send it back to you. And then people in Flint be like, oh, our water's messed up. But if you don't have control over the water that you drink, how you gonna be conscious? Like our body is made up of 80-90% fluid. And we don't have no control over the water, the one thing that we need to exist on this planet. We don't got no control over that. And black people build this, like this dude, Moses West in Austin, Texas, built the machine. Why is the people in Flint, Michigan still crying about messed up water? Why now they crying in Mississippi? Oh, they on the TV. Oh, we don't got no water balls. But black people have already solved this problem. So what does the future look like? That's in my mind when we building this sustainable. Because I'm moving out of a transactional. I've been in transaction for the past almost 20 years, and I'm thankful for that business. I'm not gonna leave it, but I'm moving into more of a developmental space right now. And so I'm very conscious about like how my builds are gonna be and what's gonna happen, what's gonna be inside of them. And like I said, I'm in Lonnie Johnson's lab. My son is there. Like I'm talking to him about what this looks like. I'm talking to Mr. Roberts about what this looks like. And this is what it looks like. The future of real estate is changing. No longer are we gonna just go buy a house that has the white man's ideology behind what it is that we need to live. His philosophy is that we should be drinking water that is sewage waste. He's sending that back into our homes so that we can drink that so they can control us. His ideology is that our gas will run, the gas heater runs all day, even when you're at work. This pilot light is on running. That's inefficient. Why do we need that? Why? So we can pay a gas bill? Come on, man. So these ideas are somebody else's ideas that have spent a lot of money that they pushed on us, and no one is challenging these ideas. They're saying, oh, this is just the way that it's supposed to be, and I'm supposed to pay my power bill. It's supposed to be $2,000 because of the square footage of my house. No, it's not. So until we can get control of these things, until we can build these houses and administer these things in this way, we don't have no power. And that's where my focus lies.
You know what I'm saying? Waking us up so that we can be in a position of strength. We're not in no position of strength. Our waters, we buying tap water. We buying water in plastic bottles, talking about, oh, I'm woke, I'm conscious, but you're still drinking out of plastic bottle. The minute the sun hits that plastic bottle, now it's not BPA free. Only thing that's BPA free is a glass bottle. And then the water that you're drinking is not alkalized. So stop with all of this foolishness, man. Unless you control your water source and you can ensure its alkalinity, oh, I'm woke. Come on, man. So that's where we at. We in a situation where we're at. The brother Jamar said we at war. You know what I'm saying? We at war. Mobb Deep said that. There's a war going on outside. No man is safe from. Come on, man. And then you don't control your water, but you throwing your fist up? Stop it. We got to get back to that, man. That whole X-Clan, Vanglorious, Brother J, this is protected by the red, the black, the green. Cats is running around with medallions on. Fight the Power was out. Professor Griff lives he's in my cul-de-sac, right? So Griff, Public Enemy, all of them, they was about it, man. They was really talking about something. But because they came out the box talking real strong and started mobilizing people, that became a problem. And then they had a meeting in 1989. Universal Records came to the table. They merged with the Prison Industrial Complex, more specifically the CCA, the Corrections Corporation of America, became the silent partner at Universal Music Group. And they ensured that the music that was signed by A&Rs had a negative connotation to it to create a prison to pipeline. So that's why everything prior to 1989 was somewhat pure in hip-hop. And then they had this meeting, they co-opted it, and then records started being created, they started being played on the radio to ensure that violence would be happening, and then, that would ensure that the people who invested in the prison industrial complex would get a return. And this ain't speculation. I was DJing on BET Rap City The Basement from 2001 to 2004. Like, I got a real serious history. I signed the Little Johnny Eastside Boys. I signed the Yin Yang Twins. I signed T.I. I got the plaques in the office. I know what I'm talking about. So this is what it is. Our music, our culture has been co-opted. And like the brother said earlier, that drill music is the protocol. So until we own our own radio stations and we can create formats like Jamar, what he's suggesting, positive hip hop, financial hip hop, conscious hip hop, whatever you want to call it, until we can own those sticks and own the land that those sticks are broadcasting on, and we can generate the power to power those sticks. And a stick, if you don't know, that's red and white paint. They're usually 200 to 300 feet in the air. Until we can control that, we're going to still be augmented by a virtual reality that they want us to believe is real, and it's not. So we have to control our homes. We have to control the utilities in our homes. We have to control the water and food coming into our homes. That's step one. Once we get past that, then we can get into owning businesses and radio stations and controlling the content and all that other stuff. But we can't even control the content because we don't even control the place or the location the content's coming out of.
Wow. Shit. Brother Jamar, you got any last words?
Man, everything he said was spot on. The music industry is there's that balance between control and canceling altogether. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we're trying to find, because, of course we're going to need entertainment. We want love songs. We want to be able to dance. We want to be able to find things we can connect with musically with other people and stuff like that, other cultures, whatever it may be, and even some of the negative stuff. Some people's negative music, it sells, because it helps people to overcome things that they can relate to, that they've gone through negatively. You know what I mean? But when we don't have control over it, it portrays a narrative that's a bit unbalanced about our community. And I think that's what is the challenge here, is finding that balance. If I hear, 3 drill records, I should hear 3 positive ones, in conjunction with that. It shouldn't be the whole segment is shoot 'em up, kill, bang, bang, sex, drugs, money, and murder, every single thing. Like, it's just too much. So, tapping us into those different realms and those different frequencies is super important. You know, these meetings are happening. These meetings are still happening every single day as to how they're going to create an atmosphere where everyone is tied to one type of style, one type of, culture. And we're trying to get rid of those types of environments. You know, we're trying to put hip hop in better hands. And I think right now, this year, because of the hip hop 50, people are realizing, okay, what does hip hop 75 look like? What does the hip hop 100th anniversary look like? Are we going to be talking about, my booty hole brown and all that? Is that what we're going to be doing? How does that look, bro? Think about it 100 years from now. What records we going to be singing? The ones they playing now on the radio, bro? What and all that? Like, is that? So this is where we at. We changing it. We shifting the narrative. Like, yo, we can't have this at the forefront. This can't be the norm. So what I say in reference to that is going to start first and foremost, with self. That's the first thing. And, recognizing the people that are at the forefront and at the forefront of this movement, making sure that they're being seen, supporting them. You have HAPI right here. Everything that they've done from the beginning has been authentic. That's why you find me over here. The authenticity is what we need to be promoting and supporting. So going into this trip, those of you who if you're just hearing about it today, definitely get on top of it. It's going to be a trip of a lifetime. This is my second trip back to Kemet, and more importantly, going to Egypt, going to Kemet. You want to make sure you have the right people around you who are going to let you know what it is you're looking at. It's one thing to book it with just any other agency and go on a trip to Egypt and see the pyramids. Hey, like he said, ride the camel, so pretty. But when you have people who know what the writings are saying and can give you that story and show you how you are connected to that story, it's a whole nother experience. Before I went, when I took 100 people, some of the people that I had brought had been there already. But their experience was very different when you go with a group of individuals who know what it is that they're looking at. So I challenge you on that. Don't go as a tourist, right? You don't want to go as a tourist. You want to go as somebody, who's connected. And that's what this tour is going to provide for you. It's going to give you resources and tools. So
Right. Resources.
Yes.
Resources. I love that. And family, if we look here closely at the flyer that we have up on the screen, one of the things you see at the bottom is the economics. That at the foundation of every civilization is economics. We're talking about the development of pyramids and temples. Like as you can see there was an economic foundation that was laid out. Egypt was the birthplace of such types of industries. Egypt was also the birthplace of understanding how do we work together collectively, and the working together collectively took place in the form of economics. Now we think of economics of ancient Kemet. You think of economics in terms of resources and in mastering our ecology. Money as we know it did not exist back then, but it was an economic plan that they had to lay down before they built anything. Any structure took place, an economic plan was the foundation, because they had to figure out ways how also to feed the people, but also to pay them. And people were paid with certain economic opportunities. And this is why we have it there as that foundation. We're looking at this. So the brother spoke about those resources. To understand your resource and manage your resource is what it is that we're going there to understand. And as we move forward, the brother also mentioned that the people that's going to be there, and just so the people who were not here last week, Infudishi will be there. He'll be one of the main guides in terms of explanation of the temples. And we have the economic people there. We're going to have some other people that we're also going to announce soon. Space is limited because we do have the charter. If you're not on the ship, you cannot come. You have to be a part of the overall to be a part of the overall experience. You have to be counted. So I strongly urge people. We did a soft launch a few months ago. A lot of people already registered. We have a limited amount of space that's there. So please just go ahead and go to the website, hapitours.com, and register now. I see Dr. David Anderson maybe coming back in, like we lost him. When he gets back on, we'll just ask him his final thoughts, and then we'll go ahead and close out the show. All right, Doc, so we got you back. You got any final words?
Nah, man, I'm just excited, yo. This is dope. Brother Jamar was saying that he's excited about performing on the Nile, I just want to remind him that there'll be more performances in Sudan, more specifically in Khartoum. There'll be more performances in Benin on the wall. There'll be more performances at Timbuktu. There's gonna be more performances in Mali. You know what I'm saying? Because it just didn't stop in Cairo. Like Cairo, from what I'm understanding, was where information was traded.
Yes.
But the information came from Kush. It came from Addis Ababa, went up the Nile. It came through South Sudan and Sudan, Meroe, Khartoum, and it when it got to Egypt, they became enlightened.
Yes.
Egypt is a dope spot. Taki's very knowledgeable. He's been dedicated to enlightening us about our African presence in Egypt.
Yes.
But there's a lot we have to remind ourselves that these are African principles that happen to be traded in Cairo. That like Cairo's like New York City. Like that's where we came to, trade the information.
Melting pot.
And we just got to be reminded that, I'm from the Bronx. People say hip hop started in the Bronx. It did, 1973. But, Kool Herc was from Jamaica. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
MC Shy D spent a lot of time in Atlanta, which influenced DJ Smurf, which was the Yin Yang Twins, and Raheem the Dream and Kilo Ali. Even though he was in the Bronx, MC Shy D came to Atlanta. So Atlanta had a lot of influence on the Bronx and its infancy stages indirectly. Jamaica, all these Jamaican artists, these DJs and stuff that came from the Caribbean, they had major influence on the Bronx, on hip hop. So it's just the same thing as Cairo. Cairo is like New York City. It's like the Bronx. It's like a part of the Bronx. So I know that I'm going to be there. I'm going to hopefully be able to enjoy the performance that you're going to give to us. But I don't want you to say that that's going to be the highlight of your career. I want more spots. I want to see you in Meroe on top of the Nubian pyramids doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? Or on top of the Benin wall doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? It's so much more than just that. But we're going to enjoy Egypt. Taki's very steady. He's going to teach us some things. I'm excited to learn some new stuff and get a different perspective on what we were doing. And like I said, I think that it was a power structure. And I think that says a lot about Black people. The first thing that they did was build something that gave them power. That's Black power when I look at the pyramid. But I can't prove it. I don't have no scientific proof on it, but I got some research. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm Dr. David Anderson. You can go catch on the YouTube. I'm Dr. David M. Anderson Sr. on the YouTube. I'm outside, and just get an officer call, 888-755-5105. If you got some technical questions about, your finances, you can call the office on that. But if you want to learn what I'm talking about, I'm available on the YouTube remotely right now. So go check it out.
And also, thank you, brother. I also want to mention that I believe this is the third time for both of these brothers actually being on the platform. And like I said earlier, we've worked together at several events. Just so we can be clear, HAPI was built on the notion. The reason why we even called it HAPI in the beginning, because it was the thought process with HAPI is how do we understand the relationship? We're talking about this relationship piece again, the relationship between the kingdoms and the Nile. So before we set out to make the third film, Nubia, the Untold Story being the first, the second, uncover the influence of ancient Egypt, the second, the third one, we had the concept for it in terms of just understanding the relationship between Kemet and Nubia, that being the foundation. So I was like, what are we going to call that? So I was like, well, what do they have in common? The common thread between Kemet and Nubia, Kush and Kemet, whatever you want to call it, is HAPI. It's HAPI the Etero, it's the river. So this is where the name comes from. But as we got further into the discussion of understanding the relationship piece, we then begin to learn that the relationship piece primarily deals or dealt with economics, the trade and commerce they had with one another. So at that point, we knew we were on to something. But it was named HAPI 10 years prior. It was already laid out of what we were going to call it. Everything that we're seeing now is an afterthought, but it begins with just studying what I like to call the complete now history. Not just the one civilization, it's both. So we talk about a person like Harkuf being the resident ancestor. Harkuf trading primarily deals with trade with Nubia and the other people like Hatshepsut in the land of Punt. So these are all the things that we never ever leave Kush out of the discussion. It's always there. It's always very prevalent. We talk about things like the Kustu incense burner and the origins of Nile Valley civilization. So you can't be someone of an African thought process and we're not getting into those things. But I really enjoyed this discussion. I believe it was extremely powerful and inspirational. I'll be there and I feel inspired by these brothers. So and I appreciate them from coming on, giving that energy, and that's the energy we're going to have in Kemet. We need to understand that we got to take that energy, and the key here is to take that energy and bring that back here so that we can move forward with our empowerment. We just can't just go there and be ooh ah. You know what I mean? We're past the ooh ah stage and just looking at the Mayans and marveling over them. We have to take that energy and capture it and move it forward. You know what I mean? So that we can obtain our empowerment. So that's what this is all about. It's like we're past the stage of just looking and just being inspired for a couple of days. We gotta take that next step. So, brothers, I'm gonna close up the show. Just do me a favor, hang out backstage. I'm gonna build with y'all real quick, and just give me just 2 seconds, and I'll be right back there.
Handle your business.
So, family, all I can say is, wow, we're looking forward to the pilgrimage, the journey to the Nile in February. Definitely want to say thank you to the people who showed the love to the Cash App. Please, if anyone, just keep doing it because actually it helps us in developing our artwork and our content. As you can see, the flyer that was up on the screen. We're gonna put it up in a second. Again, like the artwork, the memes I've created, our street flyers, website designs, all those things are done by Black businesses, and this is the way how which we pay our contractors and things like that from your help and your love. My boy Mike 360 Media did that beautiful flyer. He did the other one with Apple Symbol. We got some real dope ones about to come out, and the brother's a genius to put together the concept. When you have a vision in your mind and you have someone who can help execute that vision, that's a beautiful thing. And my brother Mike, he does a phenomenal job at doing that, as you can see here. But everything that you do, family, in terms of your love and your support helps us to bring this entire vision forward. So you are a part. When we say the HAPI movement, this is the HAPI movement because it's real. We have so many different elements, and one of those elements of the HAPI movement is your love and your support, then translates into the mic, the street teams, and the other people that we have that's a part of this. So thank you for your love and support in the HAPI movement. Please leave that up because we're going to get into that in a second, talk about the trip. We're going to close out with that. So family, if you're not following us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, please take this opportunity to do so. Everything HappiFilm. Definitely come check us out on all those platforms. Please like the pages, follow the pages. Also, we talked about the newsletter earlier. Definitely want to have a copy of the newsletter. Make sure you're on the list so you can be up to speed with everything that's going on in the world of HAPI. Spoke a minute ago about the film. We always want to mention that this is the foundation, and a lot of people we realize that are with us here have not actually watched the film, and it's so essentially important. It's a 2-hour, 12-minute documentary. HAPI Talks is not the film. A lot of people get these two things kind of confused. The film, the conversations here in the beginning were largely in part to promote the film. Shout out to Tahuti Films, the production company that was a co-producers on the project. Definitely want to go check this out, hapifilm.com. And we have a markdown on all merchandise, all the films, all the t-shirts, everything on our sites, not only on the Happy Store, but also with our streaming products as well. The films, the stream, the conference, the One Africa Power and Unity Conference in Detroit. Shout out to Detroit. Definitely want to go check out the conference. It's 2 hours, 2 days, not 2 hours, 2 days. Dynamic presentations by our most elite scholars. Lastly, for this HAPI Talks, HAPI 2024 tour to Egypt. Discover the origins of economics in Egypt with HAPI, February 16th to the 25th, 2024. We talked about the luxury Cardinal cruise, HAPI Cardinal cruise, chartered ship only for our group. For those who've been to Egypt before, you share that space. Typically, when I say that space, the cruise ships with other groups. This one will be exclusively for our group, so we'll be able to curate the experience the way that we want it. And in that experience, we'll be able to have our economic workshops, a linen party, as well as live performances, exercise, meditation on the sun deck, as well as visiting all the other places. But what wasn't mentioned earlier, and I'm gonna mention it now, and to me, which is one of my most favorite parts about this experience, is the HAPI Dinner Gala. The trip will culminate with the HAPI Dinner Gala, so please bring your best attire, dressed to impress. We're gonna have a phenomenal time, and just the idea of culminating with the HAPI Dinner Gala, to me, is worth the price. So, family, www.kettours.com. Sign up for the newsletter, stay connected, and we're gonna see you soon on HAPI Talks. Peace.
I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority. Honestly,
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?